You are watching the Racing Roundtable here at TwiNSpires. Andrew Brown alongside Vance, Hanson and James Scully to discuss a number of items, including the 3-year-old filly picture following last Saturday's Alabama at Saratoga. What else caught our eye last weekend? And, of course, what we're looking forward to this coming week. The Chad Brown Randomized earned one of the top figs by a 3-year-old filly going 2 turns this year when winning the Alabama on Saturday. A lot of talk on Twitter about why the Randomized wet paint exacta only paid $16, but I think I have the answer. Randomized just so happened to be James Scully's best bet of the weekend at those juicy 7-1 odds. So, James, very well done to you. And while you're bathing glory, why don't you tell us where she sits in the pecking order in the 3-year-old filly division as far as you're concerned now?
Well, I think she's right now, for me, she's second. She's behind Pretty Mischievous. She did face Pretty Mischievous in the Acorn. Now, Randomized, I don't think was ready for that start. She broke a little bit slowly and sort of raced evenly throughout at 6. That was her first race after breaking her maiden. But she's really come on since that Acorn experience. She won a 1-mile stake race at Saratoga convincingly, and she got a 103 Brisnet speed rating, which is really a top number in this 3-year-old filly division. A lot of low numbers this year from these performers. And I thought the Alabama was an impressive performance. She won by nearly 5 lengths. She just has a lot of upside, got another big figure. The one thing about Pretty Mischievous is that she did last non-furlongs in the Kentucky Oaks, but I think she's more of a middle distance specialist. I don't think she'll be running in any more non-furlong races this year. She's going to look at the mile and a 16th Cotillion, which will be 5 weeks from the Alabama. And if Randomized comes back and runs in that race, I think she's still got a chance to potentially surpass Pretty Mischievous. She's clearly got to beat her head-to-head, and that's the only opportunity. Now, 5 weeks is a short turnaround for Chad Brown with his stakes horses. He likes to give them a little bit more time typically, but I'm hoping that Randomized will bounce back well and show up in the Cotillion, and then we'll really have something to talk about as far as the 3-year-old filly race, Vance.
Yeah, from the reports that I saw the other day, I think Brown is kind of going to weave a Pretty Mischievous away from the Cotillion and kind of point her for the Beldame or the Spinster instead. So
you mean Brandon Walsh?
No, Chad Brown is going to avoid facing Pretty Mischievous with Randomized in the Cotillion, and he's going to probably prep her, if he does at all, for the Breeders' Cup Distaff in either the Beldame or the Spinster. And I think Randomized probably does need to win at least one, if not both, of her starts against older fillies and mares to probably take this title away. I think Pretty Mischievous's resume so far this year is going to be very hard to topple. You know, winning the Rachel Alexandra, Kentucky Oaks, Acorn, and the Test. And then, you know, if she wins another grade 1 in the Cotillion, I think Pretty Mischievous's record is just going to be too hard for a lot of Eclipse Award voters to go against as far as champion 3-year-old filly honors. Randomized, not without a chance, as James said, but I think the odds are still long, so long as she doesn't have a chance to run against her and beat her again. How about you, Brownie?
Yeah, I agree with you, Vance. I mean, Pretty Mischievous will certainly be hard to mow down. You'd say she's probably the leader in the clubhouse, wouldn't you? And maybe looks to pick up that other grade 1 in the Cotillion. I mean, Randomized potentially heading towards the distaff, as you mentioned, a race that, as far as I know, Chad hasn't won before, and the last 3-year-old to win it would have been Monomoy Girl the first time she won that race in 2018. But if Randomized was to pull that off, as you say, Vance, and win the distaff, then I think she'd be well in contention for 3-year-old filly honours, wouldn't she? I had a quick look at some international markets for that distaff too. Pretty Mischievous currently about 8-1 if she goes there, and Wet Paint around 14-1. I couldn't even get a price for Randomized. She's not even in the market at the moment, so maybe there's some opportunities for somebody. But another 3-year-old filly I wanted to mention, gentlemen, was the west side of the country in the Delmar Oaks on Saturday with Hurricane Hillary about 24 hours away. It was Anisette that took Del Mar by storm and left a trail of destruction behind her in the Del Mar Oaks. Beautifully patient ride by Umberto Rispoli. She looks such a push-button horse. He darted back to the inside as they rounded the turn, and then she just unleashed this devastating turn of foot. That was her first grade 1. She's now undefeated on US soil, 3 for 3. Next up lucky for you guys in Kentucky, I think she's on her way to Keeneland in October for the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup. So if she is, I encourage both of you and anyone else watching to go and check her out in person. She's a filly where the sky is the limit, I think. And then she'll come back to California for the American Oaks at Santa Anita in December. So, very exciting. Anna Sett there winning for Leonard Powell, the French expat. She's British bred and a daughter of Irish stallion Ortard. James, so much happened over the weekend. I'm very excited to know what else caught your eye.
Well, I just want to say about Anna Sett, Brownie. Yeah. I agree. That's going to be exciting seeing her take on those Chad Brown horses at Queen Elizabeth, because, Chad Brown will have some runners for her, but she's clearly the top 3-year-old turf filly in California. As far as what else caught my eye, I've been following these 2-year-old races at Saratoga, all the main special weight races, and I wanted to mention race 1 on Saturday. It was a 6 furlong test for 2-year-olds. And Risk It, a gun runner colt, first-time starter for Steve Asmussen, I thought was very sharp in victory, showed high speed from the starting gate, broke from the rail post, sped right to a clear lead, and dominated him by 5 lengths. That race might come back okay, because of the runner-up in that field was Hunt Ball, and this is an Into Mischief colt that was making his career debut for Belmont. He's a half-brother to Cody's Wish, the Grade 1 winner. And not surprisingly, because he had several gate works in preparation, Hunt Ball didn't break well, but he split horses, rallied really well for second, I thought, to be a clear second. And he's got a future for Bill Mott. Mott said he wants more ground. He'll stretch out moving forward. And Steve Asmussen now has 2 real nice 2-year-old maiden winners for upcoming stakes races at Saratoga, Valentine Candy and then Risk It. Valentine Candy by Justify, Risk It by Gunrunner. Vance, what else caught your eye over the weekend?
Well, piggybacking off of earlier comments about the upcoming QE2 Challenge Cup at Keeneland, I was impressed with the bounce back performance by Asprey in the Lake Placid on Saturday at Saratoga. The Chad Brown filly caught a slow pace in the Belmont Oaks, didn't perform up to snuff there, but got a quicker pace to chase in the Lake Placid and won very nicely. He's pointing her for Keeneland. Remains to be seen if she wants to go 1 1/8, 1 1/4. She might be more of a 1 1/16 type, but presumably she'll get some pace to run at Keeneland and give a good account of herself in that race. And also a 2-year-old to watch. Obviously, a lot of people were watching at Del Mar on Saturday, the Beholder filly Tamara, who overcame a stumbling start from post 1 in her debut. Impressive to overcome not only the stumble, but also running along the inside, which I know can be pretty tricky for inexperienced juveniles, but she came through, looked like a potential star in the making. She's by Bolt to Oro, spendthrift homebred. So Tamara, trained by Dick Mandela, is certainly a juvenile filly to watch in the coming months as we head towards the Breeders' Cup. Brownie, how about you?
Yeah, like mother, like a daughter. She looks the spitting image of her mum there, doesn't she? Well, I'm going to go down under to my homeland for what caught my eye over this past weekend. And the Winx Stakes, we actually discussed it on the jury on Thursday, the first Group 1 of the racing season in Australia, and the race named after the champion, Winx herself, who was trained by Chris Waller, who just so happened to win this race on the weekend with a horse called Fangirl, and just so happened to be Chris Waller's 150th Group 1 win as a trainer too. So an incredible monumental effort for Chris Waller. But it's the horse that came second that caught my eye, and many American racing fans will be familiar with as well, a horse called Princess Grace, who was a 5-time graded stakes winner for Michael Stidham, now racing for different owners down under and in the Chris Waller barn. China Horse Racing Club, or China Horse Club, bought the horse for I think 1.7 million in November at the Fassig-Tipton sale in Kentucky. So a field of 16 boys and girls in the first Group 1 of the season, over the 7 furlongs, and Princess Grace nearly won this race, going the different way as well. She's had a couple of starts in Australia before that, but it was a really, really encouraging performance. She's now one of the top picks to win the Epsom Handicap, a huge mile race at Randwick next month, and also she's one of the 5th or 6th favourites to now win the Weight for Age Classic of Australia, the Cox Plate, which is run down in Melbourne in October. So some really exciting stuff to keep your eye out for Princess Grace in Australia, with some of the big races coming up over the next couple of months. All right, Vance. I know you knew a little bit about Princess Grace when she was racing here too, and keep your eye on international racing. So have you got any thoughts on her before I ask you what you're also looking forward to this weekend?
No, I hadn't been following the Australian scene early in the season just yet, but I will, now that you bring up Princess Grace, I will keep an eye out for her as she tackles a lot better company down there. So that's very fascinating and interesting. As far as what I'm looking forward to this weekend, definitely I'm looking forward to clarity in the 3-year-old male picture after the Travers on Saturday. This is really going to decide who is the true leader of that division after the 1.25 mile Midsummer Derby. Going into it, I still am leaning towards Fortes being the division leader. He's got more graded stakes wins than everyone else. I thought his loss in the Belmont was extremely admirable, given that he was being asked to run 1.5 miles off of a 10-week layoff. Going into the Travers, I think it's between Forte and Arcangelo, his Belmont Stakes conqueror. And then, of course, we have the Kentucky Derby winner Mage, who's dropped 2 starts early in the season to Forte. And he's coming out of a second-place finish in the Haskell. And unfortunately, the Haskell has really become a negative prep for the Travers in recent years. In the last 10 years, only Keen Ice was the only Travers winner to have come out of the Haskell, and he beat American Pharaoh, who had won the Haskell. So, but in all other years, including 4 other favorites that have finished out of the money, the Haskell just has not been a good prep for the Travers. So I'm leaning against Mage. I'm looking forward to Forte and Arcangelo and see who emerges on top. How about you, James?
Well, I'll mention the Travers week as well. They got rid of that New York Friday, so going to have a terrific race on New York Bred Stakes Friday, and they're going to have the Personal Ensign and some other races on this year's Friday program. The Jerkins is going to be, I think, a dynamite race between New York Thunder, Arabian Lion, and Verifying. I'm excited about the Forgo and the Ballerina, of course. I mean, excited to see what Echo Zulu does going 7 furlongs against Goodnight Olive, Society, and others. But I'm going to mention the Travers. And to me, I'm going to draw a parallel between last Saturday's Alabama and this Saturday's Travers. You know, what happened in that Alabama was Randomized had earned a 103 speed rating in her previous start, and you had to be willing to believe that number over listed stakes rivals against all these other proven, like all these experienced graded stakes types. And it was real, and she jumped up and she beat them pretty handily. And I see Arcangelo in the exact same vein. He just made his stakes debut 2 starts back. Forte's running in his 10th stake. Mage has been around since January. They've both, they're both going to get numbers in the low 100s, 105 range. Arcangelo got a 110 Brisnet speed rating in the Belmont. I think he's even going to be faster moving forward. I like him to beat Forte and Mage and wind up being the best 3-year-old this year, Brownie. What do you got for us?
Well, yeah, of course, I'm looking forward to the Travers. It's going to be an absolutely sensational race on the weekend. But being the junkie that I am, I need something a little earlier before Saturday. So probably pretty predictably, gentlemen, I'm looking internationally and across the pond to York, where the Ebor Festival takes place between Wednesday and Saturday this week. On Wednesday, we get to see Aidan O'Brien's fantastic Paddington in the Juddmonte International Stakes, a Group 1 race. On Thursday, Aidan O'Brien Save the Last Dance, the Irish Oaks winner in the Group 1 Yorkshire Stakes. And on Friday, it's the Nunthorpe, where Highfield Princess and Brad Sell battle. So plenty of exciting stuff happening across the pond at York for the Ebor Festival this week. Terrific few days of racing, and always something to look forward to. There's often some Breeders' Cup and even Melbourne Cup implications with a few of the races as well. It's a big galloping track. You need to be a good horse to win over the Ebor Festival. Any closing thoughts before I wrap things up, gentlemen? You did smash that exacta, didn't you? The randomized wet paint exacta, James. That was you, right?
That was me. And no, just great to have your international perspective this week, Brownie. Thanks.
You're more than welcome. Well, thank you, James and Vance. As always, don't forget to check out all the TwiNSpires promotions for all the latest promotions, and Thursday's jury as well, where the panel will get together for their best bets and fades for a big weekend of racing. And until next time, I hope you find plenty of winners.